Okay, so first of all, can you introduce yourself and tell us where you're from?
Sure. So I am Professor Moreno, and I am from New York City. I work at Louisiana State University Health Sciences Center in New Orleans. I've been there for the past 9 years. I am a professor of emergency medicine. I'm the director of research. I'm the director of diversity. I'm the director of viral testing, and I am at the medical school the director of Latino studies. I also have been for a number of years on the board of directors of the American Academy of Emergency Medicine, and I was just elected to the position of president-elect of the American Academy of Emergency Medicine.
Could you tell us how did you know about this Congress in Lithuania, about emergency medicine residency in Lithuania, and how did you end up here in Kaunas today?
Okay, so I have been working in Poland for the past 7 years to help them with the development of emergency medicine there. It has been a specialty there before I got there 7 years, but I've been helping them develop the curriculum for residency, and I've been helping them develop their resident and student section, young physician section of the Polish Society of Emergency Medicine. During that time, your professor, Dinas, has been coming occasionally to the conferences in Poland. This is where he met a group of us who helped the Polish Society develop, and he invited a group of us to participate here in your Congress. Of course, I am extremely excited that you graduate your first class. This, to me, is a historic and landmark moment, not just for Lithuania, but really for emergency medicine across the world.
Can you tell us how emergency physician is beneficial for the hospital and for the society? Like, how much can he give us that, like, despite other doctors?
So, of course, I'm biased. I'm an emergency physician. But I think that emergency medicine offers more to the general public than any other specialty that exists in medicine. And why do I think that? First of all, the role of the emergency physician is to diagnose and stabilize the acute phase of every illness and injury that is known to man. So when a person is the most distressed, when they're frightened because they are having symptoms and they don't know what's wrong with them, when there's a life or death situation going on for them, or for their unborn baby, or for their child, when there's a limb-threatening injury that takes place, the emergency physician is there for the patient 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we perform the critical functions of healthcare for every kind of patient: pediatric patients, elderly patients, oncology patients, young patients, pregnant patients, everybody. So that's number one. Number two is we perform a surveillance function for our society. So if there is an epidemic that's coming up, and that epidemic can be something like an infectious disease, such as bird flu, it can be terrorism, such as the anthrax scare that took place in New York. It can be an epidemic of opioid abuse, an emerging drug of abuse like bath salts. We are the first people who see this. Emergency medicine sees this. Emergency medicine is on the cutting edge to alert the public that there's a problem, to alert the government that there's a problem that they need to address. We quarantine patients if we need to for something like bird flu. We do the interventions that are necessary to help in situations like the anthrax scare. And again, when you have an epidemic like the opioid epidemic, or you're seeing a new drug, or heroin in your particular city is being cut with a toxic metabolite, you're the ones who are notifying the public, the emergency physician, nobody else. We also note the trends that are going on in population health. Is the population getting older? Is the population suffering from more coronary disease? Is the population having more of an incidence of hepatitis? We see these things first. So more than any other physician specialty, we serve the public.
Thank you. And maybe you can tell us, or if you remember, your first shift as an ER resident.
As an ER resident?
Yeah.
All right, so my first shift as an emergency medicine resident. So honestly, I was a surgeon before I was an emergency medicine resident, so it wasn't very hard for me, my first shift at all, because I'll tell you honestly that we had to do a thoracotomy on a trauma patient, and I had done more thoracotomies than my attending, so I actually taught the chief resident how to do the thoracotomy. So I didn't have a typical first shift as an emergency medicine resident.
Okay, and now you're a teacher.
I am.
So how do you motivate your residents?
I think that, first of all, people who go into emergency medicine are curious to begin with. So my residents are curious and they're excited to begin with, to start with. But yes, of course, everybody can get a little burnout and you work long hours and it can get to be sometimes a little bit of a strain and people may be less enthusiastic. But I think I'm still enthusiastic about emergency medicine. And I think that's the greatest motivating factor for my trainees, my students and my residents. The fact that I love emergency medicine, that I'm excited every time I go in on a shift, and I think that my excitement and enthusiasm is contagious to my residents.
And one more thing, maybe you have like a secret how to stay sane, you know, in like during this crazy shifts and everything. Like as I was listening to you yesterday, and you, like, really, if I can say it, like,
please,
powerhouse woman. So how do you stay like this? Maybe you have a secret.
I do. I have two secrets. So the two secrets to being sane when you're in emergency medicine for a long time. One is an academic secret and the other one's kind of a personal secret. So the academic secret is this. By the time you have been an attending for 3, 4, or 5 years, you are going to know the diagnosis of every patient, 90% of them, within 3 minutes of walking into the patient's room. Within 3 minutes, 90% of the people, you're going to know exactly what's wrong with them. The other 10% are fascinating cases. You don't know what's wrong. You have to tease it out. It's a little difficult. But 10% is not going to keep you fascinated. It's not going to keep you excited and enthusiastic. You have to have something else. It doesn't matter what that something else is. For some of us, it's ultrasound. For me, it's research. And I'm excited because I'm there. I see different things with the patients. It gives me ideas about research projects. I start talking to the residents about a research project. The resident gets excited about getting involved. You know, for some people, it's ED administration, that they actually get involved in being an ED director. They improve throughput time. They improve patient satisfaction. They get jazzed about that. It gives them a level of excitement. But you have to have something extra. Some people go into high schools and talk to high school students about going into medicine. Whatever it is, you have to have something in academia that's more than just your day-to-day shift. And if you have something that's more than just your day-to-day shift, that feeds you when your day-to-day shift is kind of getting you down. Personally, I have a motto that emergency medicine physicians work very hard and play very hard. You have to play very hard, whatever your play is. Some people call it work-life balance, some people call it self-care, some people call it wellness, but whatever your playing is, you have to make sure that you have time to play and that you play hard and that you really enjoy it. For some people, that may be spending time with their family. Other people, they kayak, or they do weightlifting, or they garden, whatever it is that you do. But I find that emergency physicians are wonderful people. The kind of personality that's drawn to emergency medicine are wonderful people. They're warm, they're loving, they're giving, they have a sense of social justice. They understand what's important in life. So you will develop a lot of intense friendships with people that are in your field, and you'll go out with them, you'll hang out with them, you'll laugh with them, you'll have a good time with them, you'll cry with them sometimes. But all of that is really important. So I would say those two things: have a little something extra besides your clinical shifts that really gets you excited about medicine or emergency medicine, and have some hobby, some play activity that you really enjoy, and do it with a passion.
And lastly, as you said, it's a historical year now.
Yes.
Because in USA, it's 50 years anniversary
Yes.
for emergency medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Lithuania, it's just 5 years.
That's okay.
Yeah,
You're on your way.
And in a few months, we will have 5 emergency physicians.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you have any advice for them, or I don't know, some wishes, just what to do tomorrow or in a few months.
Mm-hmm. So my advice and my wishes for you, my advice to you is this. 2 things are going to happen. Number one, you're the leaders now. You are the leaders. You're the first people who are trained in emergency medicine. So the positive part of that is you are better skilled even than the people who trained you, because you actually had a concentrated residency training. You need to be the leaders. You need to go out and start new residency programs. You need to be the directors of the ED. You need to be the directors of the EMS program. You need to be the consultants to your government. Do you know that in the United States now, there probably isn't a single medical school, I mean, maybe there's a couple, but probably not a single medical school that doesn't have an emergency physician in the dean's office. Not necessarily as the dean, but as an associate dean, assistant dean, because we are the pulse of the nation. We know what's going on in the community. And in many countries like US, Britain, Australia, Canada, places where emergency medicine is 50 years old, everyone wants to be an emergency physician because it's the best kind of doctor you can possibly be. So you guys need to spread that joy and spread that expertise, and you need to be the experts and take over those leadership positions in your government and your medical schools. If they're smart, they're going to use your expertise and put you there. But I will caution you, there's going to be a couple people, not a lot, who are going to be jealous of you and say, I've been doing this for so long. What is this young person coming out and telling me what to do or telling me how to run an emergency department? But don't let that discourage you, because you'll win those people over when they see what a good job that you're doing. And my wish for you is that you progress the same way that we did in the US, in the UK, in Canada, and that you become the most popular residency program, the most popular field, and the happiest physicians that there could be.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Could you just introduce yourself, just your name and who are you?
My name's Stuart Wright, and I'm an emergency physician from the University of Cincinnati. And I was the director of quality for the emergency department for about 10 years. And then about a year ago, I left that position, and I'm now associate chief medical officer for the hospital.
Lithuania is such a tiny country somewhere in Europe, but you knew that you knew Lithuania, and you just came here to meet us, to be in the Congress here. Why? What brought you here?
As you know, I'm from Cincinnati, so we have a program where several of the Lithuanian emergency medicine residents have come to study with us and rotate through our hospital, 2 different hospital systems there in Cincinnati. So I've gotten to meet several of the residents, and they're very impressive people and doing a lot of good work. So I was excited to see what you're doing in Lithuania.
What was your first impression? Emergency department and emergency medicine.
Speaking of the one in the main hospital in Kaunas, the brand new emergency department that just opened in 2016, it's beautiful. It's nicer than my emergency department in the United States. It's very spacious. It's very clean. It's very well organized, and it was very thoughtfully designed, with the CT scanner being very, very close to the critical patients that need it, with interventional radiology being just upstairs. With pediatrics being right next door but separate from adults. So that's a very nice example of an emergency department. The other hospitals that we visited were a little bit older, so they had a little bit older designs, a little bit smaller, and the patient flow was different. They had separated the patients into different cabinets, and they would have a specialty physician, ophthalmologist, and so on, come down and see those patients primarily, which is a different model than the emergency physician-led model, where the emergency physician would see everyone and call for a consultant only when needed. The emergency medicine people that I've met in Kaunas seem to be very similar to what we would practice in the United States. In Vilnius, they seem to still be a little bit more where they are seeing patients of one particular specialty, but they're learning from each of those specialties as they go. So I think now that you're having residents graduate, you will move to a system that's more similar to the United States and Europe, where you have just emergency physicians practicing in the emergency department and requesting help as needed. But I should say, though, that the care provided in Lithuania is exactly the same as what we're doing in the United States. The technologies and the knowledge base and so forth is identical.
Okay. From your experience, what we need to make quality work in emergency department?
I think that you're using less advanced data entry systems than we are. We're almost entirely onto computerized health records, so that we can know very precisely the times the patient arrived, the time the EKG was performed, the time they were placed in a room, the time the physician saw them, and so on. And so that makes it very easy then to break down our process into bytes and try and improve each individual piece of that process. From what I've seen in Lithuania, most of the hospitals are on a paper-based medical record system, which is, it's much more, you can measure timing, but it's much more difficult because you have to go to the individual chart and try and collect data from each individual piece of paper, which makes the process very, very laborious and takes a very long time. So I think that's the biggest difference that we're seeing.
Could you tell, please, why emergency medicine is beneficial for hospital and for healthcare?
I think it is a number of things. I think, like in Vilnius, where if you're a patient that comes into the hospital and you have an eye problem and you get put into the ophthalmology cabinet and you wait for the eye physician to come down and see you, that could be a very quick process because maybe you only have one eye patient at a time. But if you're a patient that comes in with a minor injury and you have to go into the trauma section, there may be 10 or 12 people ahead of you. So you have to wait to be seen by that physician until they see all the people in front of you. So when you bring an emergency physician into the mix, they can see all of those patients as they arrive. So they can mix in the eye case with the trauma case, with the medical case, with the neurology case, and then only call for a specialty physician as needed. So it speeds up the process for the patient. It also puts someone who can see the whole picture with the patient, so that if the patient has an eye injury, but that also means they're having a stroke, that emergency physician can see both of those things and not have to wait for the eye physician to do his examination and then move the patient to the neurology section and have the neurologist see that patient. So you get someone who knows a little bit about everything, as opposed to a lot about a very few things.
Okay, and as you know, this year some emergency doctors are graduating in Lithuania.
Yes.
And could you wish something or advise something for them to succeed in Lithuania?
I think it's very exciting. I've met, I think, most of the graduating physicians this year, and 5 of them from Kaunas passed their boards yesterday, which is very exciting. So I would just encourage them to take on those leadership roles to further develop emergency medicine within the country. You have very strong leadership that has helped develop emergency medicine to this point, but now it's time for the emergency medicine trained people, the board certified people, to take on those leadership roles. They're already doing massive amounts of work, but just keep that work going, keep pushing it forward, keep building emergency medicine as a base, and I think the whole country will see benefits. Because you'll have decreased need for the specialty physicians, you'll have more rapid care through the emergency departments, and I think better care through the emergency departments, because the emergency physicians will have that broad view. And then they will have the interests to go into things that we're just studying here, like disaster medicine, military medicine, and the things that that meld very easily with an emergency physician's knowledge base. So it's very exciting, and I think you're going to succeed very well.
a mentor, you're a leader also, you're a mentor for residents, and what makes a good mentor for a resident?
That's a very tough question. I think one thing that's for sure is that we're all aging. We're all getting older. And as emergency physicians, as you move through your career, it's very important, I think, to lead the next generation so that they can surpass where you are. That they can continue to advance the field and advance the specialty. So it's important to take the time to teach, to educate, to lead, to invite residents with you as you go to the bigger conferences and so forth. I brought a resident with me here, Grace Lagasse, whom you've met. And it's a very important step for her to be able to see on an international level how emergency medicine is practiced and how it's developing in Lithuania. So now she can take that information with her as she starts her career. And then she'll be that much more influential as she goes through the mid portions and later portions of her career. She'll be able to think back and reflect on what she learned in Lithuania and be able to expand that to Africa and to other states that are developing their own emergency medicine programs. So to be that good mentor, it's almost just a willingness to open your career to the younger generation, to teach them about what you've done so that they can take that knowledge and start from there. And go forward instead of starting from there and trying to relearn everything that you've already done.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you a lot.
So, hello.
Hello.
Could you introduce yourself?
So my name is Komi Dasou. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Arkansas in Little Rock, and I'm also an ultrasound fellow in the ultrasound division.
All right. Most of people don't know countries such as Lithuania because it's really small.
Yeah.
But you, fortunately, found some time to visit us and even to be a leader in our ultrasound course and to make a presentation. What brought you here? How did you find us?
So I've been involved with the ultrasound and international stuff for a while now. I was in Poland last month during a conference in Poland, in the winter conference, and I heard about a conference here in Lithuania. I was really interested in coming in and sharing the little knowledge I have on ultrasound, try to help. Because I'm really passionate about ultrasound, or really passionate about international emergency medicine, so it was great for me to be here and share.
And do you remember your first shift as a resident?
Yes, it was almost 5 years ago, and I was very, very, very nervous. And because reading stuff in a book and actually taking care of a patient are two different things. And it has been a learning process. Every day you go on a shift, it has been a learning process, and it has been great. So far, it has been great.
Could you mention, for example, 3 personal qualities that every emergency physician needs, or 3 qualities that a person shouldn't have if he wants to be an emergency physician?
Okay, well, let's go first with the 3 qualities that an emergency physician should have. In my opinion, they have to be humble. Humility is very big when you want to work in the emergency department, because you have to know that sometimes there will be some disease process that you will not know how to take care of, and that's fine. That's why you have your specialist. Also, you have to be humble, because sometimes you might have some specialist or some patient that will yell at you or talk to you in the wrong way, but just you have to be able to be humble and learn from it. The other thing is to have a thick skin, because you have to deal with a lot of personalities. And in the emergency department, we tend to see patients when they are really in a bad moment. Maybe the family member is dying or the kid is dying, and they'll be screaming and yelling and do other stuff. We should not take it personal. Because when you go in a room and see one patient somewhere, and that patient is dying, and you have to go to a different room to see a different patient, you cannot take your emotion with you from that first room. You have to be able to switch gear and keep on going. And the third one will be being an avid learner, because there's always a new stuff you can learn every day, whether it's online or in a book. There's always something you can learn. And those are the 3 qualities I think every emergency physician should have. to be able to succeed in the emergency department.
Do you have any work and life balance? Is there anything you like to do or you're passionate about after the emergency room?
Yeah,
after the work?
Soccer. I love to go play soccer and just hang out, watch movies, because you have to be able to do a good balance. Because working in the emergency department can be really draining, really tiring. So you have to be able to have that work and life balance. You work, you play hard, and you rest when you have time. So I like to play soccer. I like to go to the movies, and I have 2 boys, 2 little kids. I like to spend time with them, and that can help you rejuvenate and come back to work.
How do you personally motivate your younger colleagues, your residents?
To motivate them, so that first of all, I have one philosophy is everybody first have to be able to self-motivate themselves. That's the number one. You have to have that drive to want to achieve something. And now the faculty is there to help you through that process. It helps to remind you the end goal. The end goal for you is to become the best possible emergency physician you can be and take care of your patient. And that's why the end goal, that's what I try to show them at the end of the day. Whether they have a bad shift or a bad patient outcome, just encourage them. It's okay, just keep going, keep striving for the best and look at the end goal. That's what you should be aiming for.
And for the ending, as you know, emergency medicine in Lithuania is just beginning.
Yes.
Baby steps.
Yes.
What could you wish for all young people which begin their life as emergency physicians and emergency residents here in Lithuania?
The one thing I can tell them is the best career choice they can make. It's awesome. I know it's a baby step. You don't have that many people that are in it, and you have a lot of pushback from other people, but you made the best possible choice because you will have impact on many patients, unbelievable impact on patients, save a lot of people's life, and you literally, each day you go to work, you actually save somebody's life before you come home, and I think that's a good thing. And even though it's a young specialty in Lithuania, you grow really fast. Just watch. Before you know it, in the next few years, you'll be unbelievable. And I'm really glad for you guys. It's awesome.
That's cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys very much.